From a spiritual perspective, for such a time as this, Donald Trump, of all people, to be, as you said earlier in the interview, the most conservative president, I mean, does it kind of, in a way, blow your mind that, you know, someone like Donald Trump, who is sitting in the Oval Office, I mean, I know you can list the accomplishments, but at the same time, just from a spiritual perspective, there are a lot of Christians that believe for such a time as this.
I think God calls all of us to fill different roles at different times, and I think that he wanted Donald Trump to become president, and that's why he's there. And I think he has done a tremendous job in supporting a lot of the things that people of faith really care about.
A bit of an Israel tie-in on anti-Semitism here in the United States. It's been a problem, obviously, for a long time. You have some House Democrats, some freshman Democrats, really out there on some of the language and some of who they're kind of aligning themselves with. How concerning is it to this White House that some of that anti-Semitism has seemed to be growing inside the Democratic Party?
I think it is outrageous that the leadership of Democrats haven't called on these people to either take their comments back. They haven't condemned them. Anytime somebody who's not even associated with the president says something, the first thing is, will you condemn? Will you say that this is terrible? Where is the leadership on the Democrat side to call this out? It is unbelievable that this is going totally unchecked, totally off the radar of most of mainstream media. The comments that they've made are outrageous. The comparisons that they've made about the president are so insulting, I think, to the millions of Jews across the globe. And I hope that they will start to apply the same standards to those members that they try to push on the Republican Party.
Do you think this hurts them in 2020 if they're going to do this far left tilt?
I think it certainly should. I think it is disgraceful, and I think that people need to know what these individuals have said and the type of people that they associate themselves with. The idea that they can take picture after picture and continue to support people like Louis Farrakhan is beyond me. And I think that's something that not only do the leaders in the Democrat Party need to call out, but I think the mainstream media needs to call it out, and the people across the country need to be aware of it.
Sarah, the morality of all of this, you know, Nancy Pelosi says the wall is, quote, immoral. What's the take from the White House's standpoint on immorality? Nancy Pelosi talking about immorality.
I mean, honestly, it's very hard at this point to even take a lecture from Democrats on what is moral and what isn't. People who are willing to allow legislation to pass supporting late-term abortion, the idea that they would take out "So Help Me God" in the platform that House Democrats have raised this week, but the idea that protecting the people of your country, which is the fundamental duty of being president of the United States, would in some way be immoral is a ridiculous charge, and something that I think probably I would think Speaker Pelosi may even regret making that comment because she's seen how ridiculous that sounds, and you know how the evidence is so contrary to that comment.
Well, sticking with policy, Sarah, lots of evangelicals are very supportive of what President Trump is doing, but many are terrified of his policy in Syria, his strategy there. And the president just today, you know, tweeted that countries like Iran is a source of potential danger and conflict. There are a lot of Christians who feel like, you know, the U.S. pulling out of Syria leaves them at you know, the hands of countries like Iran. What do you say to those Christians?
Look, the president's made clear that we support Christians, that we support the Kurds. He's made that clear to Turkey. He's made that clear publicly on a number of fronts. And it's one of the reasons that the president has been tough on Iran, is to make sure that people don't feel threatened. We've supported the safe zones that are going to be very important. And the idea that the president is just stepping away and ignoring any potential problem doesn't understand the fundamental decision that he's made. He wants to bring our troops home out of Syria, but we're not leaving the region either. We're still going to have a presence in the region, but as much as we can continue to totally and completely destroy ISIS, the president wants our troops out of Syria, and he wants to be able to bring more of them back home to the United States.
What do you want to say to the mainstream media as it relates to they're obsessed with the fact that there's not daily White House briefings? I know the president says the word's going to get out, but what do you make? What's your message to them about the fact that there's not daily briefings like they're used to?
Yeah, the president's exactly right. The word is going to get out because whether or not there's a daily press briefing, people in the administration, myself included, do regular interviews as I'm doing right now. After a lot of those interviews, stop and take dozens of questions outside where any reporter is allowed to come and ask questions. The president himself engages with the media more than any president has in history. He's the most accessible, and I think the White House in general is the most accessible when it comes to the media. We have an incredible story to tell, and we're proud and happy to do it. The difference is that the world has changed in terms of how you can interact with the press. I mean, my phone starts ringing from early in the morning until late at night, taking questions, dealing with reporters, and so the idea that we're not engaging and they're not getting information is just not true. The other side of that is that, you know, we had a briefing this week and they complain and complain and complain that we don't have them. Then we have one and CNN and MSNBC didn't even cover it. So, you know, I think that the biggest thing is that they just want to complain and attack this administration and this president, and they don't want to cover all of the successes because that's not good for the narrative that they're trying to drive.
Sarah, when you do hold briefings, and you've held plenty of them, the whole world gets to see you as you come through that blue door and you step behind the podium and you open your notebook. But I wonder, as you're standing behind that podium, what do you see?
I see an incredible responsibility as well as an incredible privilege to get to speak on behalf of the president. I'm proud to do it. I love my job and I love getting to work in this administration for this president. And the reason for that is because I think we've done a lot of incredible things in just 2 years. And I think the president's going to have tremendous success over the next 6.
When you look out into the crowd, though, do you see, tell me what you see in that room. There are 49 seats, and ever since this president took the oath of office, it's been standing room only in there. So what do you feel like you're kind of facing when you're standing there?
You know, it depends on the day. I do think that varies, but you know, a lot of times, and I think people are free to look at it themselves. You see, and this isn't everybody, and I don't want to generalize the crowd, but I mean, you see a lot of like angry faces, people that their sole purpose is to find this gotcha moment, to catch you. Their job is not to get information, which is what the briefing is supposed to be. It's to trip you up. And I think if the briefing, you know, loses purpose and it isn't a good resource for the American people to get information and answers to real questions, then you do have to wonder if that's the best forum in order to put a message out. There's certainly no desire by our team and certainly by the president to withhold information. Again, we think we have an amazing story to tell. We're not afraid to take tough questions, but we want to make sure that it's productive and that it's not for the purpose of destroying the president, distorting the message, or destroying the messenger as we go through that process.
Well, I want to talk about the toll that this job has taken on you. You look fantastic, but I don't know how much sleep you actually got last night.
They can make all those things make it look a lot better.
It's all about the lighting, right?
It's all good lighting, and good hair and makeup can make a big difference.
You have an incredibly demanding job. You are, you know, the world watches everything you say.
Sometimes that doesn't always go well either.
Oh, that's funny.
You have a husband. You have 3 young children under the age of 7. Wow. Do you know, you're obviously, you're going to miss moments with your kids, with your family. Your husband's going to see things that you don't get to see because you're here. You have to be here for long hours. Do you struggle with mommy guilt?
Oh, every single day. I mean, one of the hardest things I do every day is just go to work. My kids are clinging to me, crying, "Why are you leaving? Why do you have to work?" And to explain to a 6, 5, and 3-year-old what you do and why it's important is nearly impossible. And so trying to make them understand can be a real challenge. I have the most amazing husband in the world, one, because he puts up with me, and I know I can be a handful, but he also keeps our whole life afloat. And without him and without that support system, it would be totally impossible to do this job. But at the same time, I think it's so important for our kids to see us engage on things that matter. I think my oldest is a girl. I think it's very important for her to see, even at this age, that as a woman she can do anything that she sets out to do. And while it can be incredibly difficult to find that balance, I think it's important that you don't give up one thing for the other, because I think having that balance is very important. And my kids getting to see that. And one of the things that my dad did when I was young, he was governor for almost 11 years, first ran for office when I was 9, is he took us with him. And he engaged us in the process. And so as much as I can, I try to engage my kids in the process. Now sometimes that can backfire. I had to explain to my 3-year-old the other day what somebody getting killed in cold blood was. Oh, and I was like, where did you hear that? And they had watched an interview I did on the news, and I was like, okay, Brian, we may not need to engage as heavily so we can pull off of some of that. But I think that's one of the things that is important, is one, to cherish every moment that you have and try to be intentional about the time that you have, but also engage them. Even if they don't understand, they appreciate getting to see it, feel like they're a part of it. I guess about 10 days ago, I was able to bring my daughter. We were here on a Saturday, and I brought her with me, and she got to go into the Oval Office when the naturalization ceremony was taking place. And even though she didn't understand every piece of it, she knew that it was important, and she got to see that and see the excitement of these people becoming Americans and becoming U.S. citizens. And that was a really powerful moment to get to share with my daughter. And one of those things will be something she gets to look back on and have a better appreciation for the amazing country that we live in, and also hopefully for the work that we do every day here.